First contact. The proximity alarm blared through the Odyssey's command deck, jarring Commander Eliza Foster from her concentration. She'd been reviewing stellar cartography data when the sensors detected the massive object decelerating from what appeared to be faster-than-light travel. "Report," Eliza commanded, straightening in her captain's chair as the bridge crew scrambled to their stations. Lieutenant Marcus Reed, her tactical officer, stared wide-eyed at his console. "Commander, sensors are detecting a vessel. It's enormous, at least 12 kilometers in length. Nothing in our database matches its configuration." Dr. Jaden Ockhaffer, the ship's xenobiologist, rushed to the science station. His dark eyes reflected the holographic display as it rendered the approaching vessel, a sleek obsidian structure that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "That's impossible," he whispered. "The energy readings are off the charts." "Naveen, get us out of here," Eliza ordered her pilot. Lieutenant Naveen Sharma's fingers flew across the navigation controls. "Engines not responding, Commander. We're caught in some kind of field." The lights on the bridge dimmed momentarily, replaced by an eerie violet glow that seemed to emanate from nowhere and everywhere simultaneously. "Communications are down," reported Communications Officer Valentina Petrov, her Russian accent thickening with stress. "All channels, even emergency frequencies." Eliza felt a chill run down her spine. The Odyssey, Earth's most advanced deep space exploration vessel, suddenly felt fragile and primitive. "All hands battle stations," she ordered, though she knew their weapons would be useless against whatever technology could disable their systems so effortlessly. The ship shuddered, and through the view screen, they watched as the alien vessel's hull seemed to part like liquid, revealing a cavernous opening. "We're being pulled in," Naveen reported unnecessarily as the Odyssey drifted helplessly toward the maw of the alien ship. Hours later, though it felt like minutes, Eliza led her senior officers through corridors that pulsed with bioluminescence. They had been invited aboard by humanoid figures whose translucent skin revealed complex circulatory systems glowing beneath. These beings hadn't spoken, communicating instead through gestures and a strange sensation of understanding that bypassed language altogether. "This architecture isn't constructed," Jaden whispered, running his scanner over walls that seemed to breathe. "It's grown. The entire ship is organic." The corridor opened into a vast chamber where gravity seemed optional. Objects, perhaps artifacts or technology, floated in gentle orbits around a central dais. And there, suspended in a field of shimmering energy, waited their host. The alien queen. Eliza's first thought was that queen was an inadequate word. The being before them was regal beyond human comprehension, towering and graceful, with a form that seemed to exist partially in dimensions human eyes couldn't fully process. Her exoskeleton gleamed like polished obsidian with iridescent patterns flowing across its surface. Multiple limbs moved with hypnotic precision, and her head, crowned with sensory appendages, housed eyes that shifted through colors beyond Earth's visible spectrum. Those eyes turned to Eliza and fixed upon her with such intensity that she felt physically pinned in place. It wasn't just observation, it was dissection, a methodical examination of not just her physical form, but something deeper. "Commander," Marcus whispered urgently beside her, "she's in my head." Eliza couldn't respond. The Queen's gaze had indeed penetrated beyond her eyes, beyond conscious thought. She felt the alien presence sifting through memories, emotions, beliefs, the very essence of what made her human. When the Queen finally spoke, it wasn't with sound but with thought that materialized directly in Eliza's mind. "You stand at the threshold of transformation, Eliza Foster of Earth." "How do you know my name?" Eliza managed to ask, her voice sounding distant and small in the vast chamber. "I know all that you are." The Queen's thoughts resonated with ancient wisdom, "and I know what humanity might become." Suddenly, Eliza's vision blurred as images flooded her consciousness. Earth from orbit, human cities, technological achievements, wars, moments of compassion and cruelty. The montage accelerated, showing futures both wondrous and terrible. "Your species has reached the crossroads earlier than most. The choice that follows will determine your place in the cosmos." As the Queen's gaze intensified, Eliza felt something shift within her, a connection forming, a responsibility being placed upon her shoulders that she neither asked for nor understood. The revelation. The chamber fell silent as the Queen's words resonated in Eliza's mind. The rest of her crew stood frozen, their faces a mixture of awe and terror. Commander Foster felt the weight of countless eyes upon her, not just those of her crew, but the Queen's multifaceted gaze that seemed to observe her from several dimensions at once. "Me," Eliza finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why would you choose me to decide humanity's fate?" The Queen's form shimmered, her appendages creating intricate patterns in the air that somehow conveyed meaning beyond language. "You possess a neural pattern that exists between probabilities, a rare anomaly." The Queen's thoughts flowed into Eliza's mind. "You see connections others cannot." Lieutenant Reed stepped forward, his hand instinctively hovering near his sidearm, a futile gesture in this environment. "Commander, we should consider this carefully. For all we know, this could be manipulation." Dr. Ockafer shook his head, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his caution. "This technology, this biology, it's centuries beyond us. If they wanted to harm us, they already could have." The Queen's attention remained fixed on Eliza. "Your kind faces extinction if you continue your current path." Sudden visions slammed into Eliza's consciousness. Earth's oceans rising, ecosystems collapsing, wars fought over dwindling resources, and finally, darkness sweeping across the planet. But there was something else in the darkness, something watching and waiting. "What was that?" Eliza gasped, staggering backward. "That presence in the dark." "The harvesters." The Queen's mental voice carried a gravity that made everyone in the room shudder. "They consume civilizations that fail to evolve beyond their limitations. They are ancient, patient, inevitable for those who stagnate." Valentina crossed herself, a reflexive gesture from her childhood. "Are they coming for Earth?" "They are always coming, for all worlds that remain vulnerable." The Queen's form shifted, and suddenly new visions filled Eliza's mind. Humans evolving, their bodies and minds transforming, technology fusing with biology in harmonious ways. Cities that breathed alongside their inhabitants, spacecraft grown rather than built, human consciousness expanding beyond physical limitations. "Is this what you're offering us?" Eliza asked, her voice stronger now. "Evolution." Not offering, enabling. The Queen's appendages created new patterns. "The potential exists within your DNA, dormant. We can awaken it." Naveen stepped forward, his engineer's mind already calculating possibilities. "And what do you get from this arrangement? No advanced species offers help without expecting something in return." For the first time, the Queen's attention shifted from Eliza to survey the entire crew. A sensation like amused respect filtered through their minds. "Wisdom and suspicion. We seek allies, not servants. The cosmos holds threats even we cannot face alone." The Queen's form seemed to expand, filling more of the chamber as new visions appeared. Vast galactic structures, civilizations spanning multiple star systems, and species working together to create technologies that bent reality itself. But shadows lurked at the edges of these visions, threats so ancient and powerful they defied comprehension. The choice remains: evolution and alliance, or isolation and eventual harvest. Eliza stepped forward, standing directly beneath the Queen's suspended form. "And if we choose evolution, what happens to our humanity? Do we lose what makes us who we are?" The Queen's response came not as words, but as emotions. Pride, determination, compassion, courage. "These qualities are why you were found worthy of choice. They would not be lost, but enhanced. What defines you is not your form, but your spirit." Dr. Ockafer was frantically taking readings with his scanner. "Commander, I'm detecting changes in the quantum field around us. Whatever this being is, she exists partially outside normal spacetime." "Your understanding grows." The Queen's thoughts carried approval. "You have one planetary rotation to consider. I will await your decision." With that, the audience appeared to be over. The same translucent beings who had escorted them appeared at the chamber entrance, gesturing for them to follow. As they were led back through the organic corridors toward their ship, Lieutenant Reed moved close to Eliza. "Commander, with all due respect, we can't possibly make this decision alone. This affects all of humanity." "I know," Eliza replied, her mind still reeling from the visions. "But I don't think she's giving us much choice in the timeline." Valentina looked pale. "Those things she showed you, the harvesters, they were real." "As real as anything I've ever felt," Eliza confirmed. And somehow I think they're already aware of us. They reached the airlock where the Odyssey was docked. As they prepared to board their ship, Eliza felt a final touch in her mind, lighter, almost gentle. The seed of potential already exists within you, Eliza Foster. You need only choose to nurture it. Once aboard the Odyssey, the senior crew gathered in the conference room. The ship systems had been restored, but no one felt relief. "We need to contact Earth immediately," Reed insisted. "This decision can't rest with us." Navin shook his head. "We're 3 weeks from the nearest relay station at maximum speed. Whatever deadline the Queen set, we won't make it." Dr. Ockhaffer was still reviewing his data. The biological implications alone are staggering. Directed evolution, consciousness expansion, these concepts have been theoretical at best. Eliza stood at the viewport, watching the alien vessel shimmer against the backdrop of stars. "We don't have the luxury of debate. The Queen chose me for this decision, and I have until tomorrow to make it." "And how exactly do you plan to decide the fate of our entire species?" Reed asked, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. Eliza turned to face her crew, her expression resolute despite the fear churning inside her. "By understanding what's truly at stake, not just for us but for all of humanity's future." She activated the holographic display in the center of the table. "Dr. Ockhaffer, analyze everything you recorded from the Queen's chamber. Navin, run simulations on both scenarios she showed us based on the data we have. Valentina, prepare a message to Earth, encrypted, highest priority. Even if they can't respond in time, they deserve to know what's happening." "And me, Commander?" Reed asked, still skeptical. Eliza met his gaze steadily. "I need you to prepare for both possibilities. If this is a trap, we need options." As her crew dispersed to their tasks, Eliza remained alone in the conference room, the weight of tomorrow's decision pressing down on her shoulders. Evolution or extinction, alliance or isolation. The future of humanity, somehow impossibly, rested in her hands. Outside the viewport, the alien vessel pulsed gently, waiting for an answer that would change everything. Return to Earth. The journey back to Earth was tense. The Odyssey's engines hummed at maximum capacity as they pushed through the void of space, each crew member processing the Queen's ultimatum in their own way. Commander Eliza Foster had barely slept, the alien's visions playing on an endless loop behind her eyelids whenever she tried to rest. "Approaching Earth orbit in 30 minutes, Commander," Navin announced, his voice breaking the heavy silence on the bridge. Eliza nodded, observing the familiar blue marble growing larger on their view screen. Earth looked so peaceful from this distance, no sign of the potential doom the Queen had prophesied, no indication of the cosmic predators lurking in the darkness between stars. "Any response to our transmission?" she asked Valentina. The communications officer shook her head. "The United Earth Council has acknowledged receipt and ordered us to proceed directly to Orbital Station Alpha. They've assembled an emergency summit." "I bet they have," Lieutenant Reed muttered. "We dropped the biggest bombshell in human history and expect them to just take our word for it." Dr. Ockhaffer looked up from his console, where he'd been analyzing data for the entire journey. "They'll have to. The quantum signature I recorded from the Queen's vessel is unlike anything in our scientific database. It's proof enough that we encountered something beyond our understanding." Eliza turned to face her crew. "I need everyone prepared for intense debriefing. The Council will question everything, what we saw, what we felt, what we believe. Stay focused on the facts." She paused. "And remember, according to the Queen, we're on a deadline." "Do you think she'll follow us here?" Navin asked, his fingers nervously tapping his console. "I don't know," Eliza admitted, "but I suspect she doesn't need to. She seemed connected to me somehow. I have a feeling she'll know my decision no matter where I make it." The docking procedure at Orbital Station Alpha was expedited, bypassing standard protocols. As the airlock hissed open, Eliza was greeted by a contingent of stern-faced security personnel and Director Harlow of the United Earth Council's Defense Division. "Commander Foster," Harlow said, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun. "Your crew will be escorted to separate debriefing rooms. You'll come with me." Reed stepped forward protectively. "With all due respect, Director, we should stay together. We all experienced." "That's not how this works, Lieutenant," Harlow cut him off. "The Council needs uncontaminated individual accounts." Eliza placed a calming hand on Reed's shoulder. It's all right. Follow protocol. We have nothing to hide. The following hours were a blur of questions, brain scans, and psychological evaluations. Eliza recounted her experience repeatedly to different panels of experts, scientists, military strategists, political leaders, each group approaching the information from their unique perspective. And you truly believe this alien queen has the power to trigger evolutionary changes in humanity? Asked Dr. Diallo, the council's chief xenobiologist. I don't just believe it, Eliza replied, fatigue evident in her voice. I experienced it. The visions she shared weren't just images, they were possibilities anchored in our existing genetic potential. Admiral Chen leaned forward, his weathered face skeptical. And these harvesters, you're certain they pose a legitimate threat? As certain as I can be about something I haven't directly encountered, Eliza said. But the fear I felt from the Queen when she showed them to me was profound. Whatever they are, they're ancient and patient, and they're coming. After what felt like days, but was only 14 hours, Eliza was finally escorted to the station's observation deck, where the full council awaited. 12 representatives from Earth's unified governing bodies sat in a semicircle, their expressions ranging from openly hostile to cautiously curious. To her relief, her crew had been brought in as well, standing together on one side of the chamber. Dr. Ockafer gave her a subtle nod. They had shared consistent stories then. Council President Reyes stood as Eliza approached the center of the room. Commander Foster, after reviewing your crew's testimony and the scientific data gathered from your encounter, we find ourselves in an unprecedented situation. That's putting it mildly, sir, Eliza responded. A murmur of disapproval rippled through some council members at her informality, but Reyes allowed a thin smile. Indeed, we are faced with an offer, or perhaps ultimatum, from an advanced alien intelligence, evolution or extinction, a decision that, according to your account, falls specifically to you. The Queen was explicit about that, yes. Yet you've brought this decision to us, observed Representative Chowdhury. Why? Eliza straightened her shoulders. Because while I may be the conduit for this choice, its consequences affect all of humanity. I won't make it unilaterally. Admirable, said Director Harlow, though her tone suggested otherwise. But problematic. The scientific community is divided on whether this evolutionary advancement is even possible, let alone advisable. And our military advisors are concerned this could be an elaborate prelude to invasion. Lieutenant Reed stepped forward without permission. If invasion was their intent, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Their technology is so far beyond ours that resistance would be futile. Stand down, Lieutenant, Reyes ordered, though he nodded thoughtfully. Your point is noted, however. Dr. Ockafer cleared his throat. Council members, if I may, the data I collected suggests that the Queen's species exists partially in dimensions we barely understand. Their perception of time and space differs fundamentally from ours. I believe they genuinely see potential in humanity that we haven't yet recognized in ourselves. Or they see resources to be harvested once we've been sufficiently modified, countered Representative Zhang. History teaches caution when faced with vastly superior powers bearing gifts. The debate continued for hours, factions forming and reforming as different aspects of the situation were considered. Through it all, Eliza remained silent, watching the representatives of humanity argue about a choice that, ultimately, the Queen had placed in her hands alone. As the session approached its 18th hour, a junior officer burst into the chamber, face pale. Council President, we're detecting an anomaly in Earth's orbit. Something's appearing. All eyes turned to the massive view screen as it activated to show a shimmering distortion forming against the backdrop of stars. Slowly, the familiar obsidian form of the Queen's vessel phased into reality. It seems, Eliza said quietly, that our deadline has arrived. Communications Officer Valentina's console chimed. Commander, we're receiving a transmission directly to your neural pattern. It's her. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Eliza. She closed her eyes, feeling the now familiar presence touch her mind. The time for decision approaches, Eliza Foster. The harvesters have sensed our interest in your world. They draw nearer. Eliza opened her eyes to find the council staring at her, with expressions ranging from fear to awe. She says we're out of time, Eliza announced. The threat she warned us about, they know we're here, they're coming. Chaos erupted in the chamber as council members shouted questions and demands. Through it all, President Reyes watched Eliza with calculating eyes before raising his hand for silence. It appears, Commander Foster, that regardless of our deliberations, the choice remains yours to make. So tell us, what will you decide? Eliza looked around the room at the representatives of humanity, at her loyal crew, and finally back at the alien vessel hovering in Earth's orbit, waiting for an answer that would forever change the course of human history. I need to speak with her, Eliza said firmly. One more time, face to face. Absolutely not, Director Harlow objected. The security risks are irrelevant at this point, Eliza cut in. This is our future at stake, all of us, and before I decide, there are questions that need answering. President Reyes studied her for a long moment before nodding slowly. Very well, Commander, but you won't go alone. As preparations were made for a delegation to return to the alien vessel, Eliza stood at the observation window, watching Earth rotate below. Humanity had evolved from simple cells to space-faring civilization over billions of years. Now, she held in her hands the power to accelerate that evolution toward something unimaginable, or potentially doom her species to extinction. The second meeting. Eliza found herself in a high-security room within Orbital Station Alpha, effectively a prisoner despite General Hayes' insistence that she was under protective custody. The walls were bare metal, the furnishings minimal, a bed, a desk, and a chair, all bolted to the floor. A guard stood outside her door, and surveillance cameras tracked her every movement. Comfortable, Commander? Lieutenant Reed asked sarcastically as he was escorted in with Dr. Okafor, Naveen, and Valentina. They had apparently been granted a brief visitation. As comfortable as one can be while the fate of humanity hangs in the balance, Eliza replied, rising to greet her crew. What's happening out there? Dr. Okafor's expression was grim. Earth is divided. Protests have broken out in major cities. Some are demanding we accept the Queen's offer, others are calling it the end times. Hayes has convinced half the military leadership that this is an invasion strategy, Naveen added. They're preparing defensive measures. Eliza laughed bitterly. Against a being who can telepathically communicate across space, what exactly do they think their weapons will accomplish? Valentina moved closer, lowering her voice. There's more. Dr. Diallo has been analyzing the data we gathered. The genetic sequences the Queen showed us, they're real. They exist in human DNA right now, just dormant. Which means the Queen was telling the truth about our evolutionary potential, Eliza concluded. At least that part, Reed cautioned. We still don't know her true intentions. A sudden commotion outside drew their attention. The door slid open to reveal President Reyes, flanked by security personnel with expressions suggesting they'd rather be anywhere else. Leave us, Reyes ordered both the guards and Eliza's crew. Sir, with respect, Reed began. That's an order, Lieutenant, Reyes cut him off. 1 minute alone with your commander. Once the room was cleared, Reyes' composed facade cracked. He looked exhausted, the weight of the world quite literally on his shoulders. The situation is deteriorating rapidly, Commander. Hayes has rallied significant military support. He's pushing for a preemptive strike against the alien vessel. Eliza stood abruptly. That would be suicide. I know, but fear is driving decisions now, not reason. Reyes ran a hand over his face. And there's something else. Our deep space monitoring stations are detecting anomalies at the edge of our solar system, distortions in space that our scientists can't explain. A chill ran down Eliza's spine. The harvesters. We don't know that, Reyes cautioned, but the timing is concerning. Eliza paced the small room. I need to speak to the Queen again, now. Impossible. Hayes has the station locked down. No shuttles are permitted to approach the alien vessel. Then I'll find another way. Eliza stopped packing, turning to face Reyes directly. Sir, the Queen chose me. Whatever is happening, I'm at the center of it. If those anomalies are the harvesters, we're out of time for debate. Reyes studied her for a long moment. Hayes believes you've been compromised, that the Queen has somehow influenced your mind. And what do you believe? I believe, Reyes said carefully, that extraordinary moments in history often hinge on individual choices. The Queen may have seen something in you that the rest of us can't perceive. He moved to the door, then paused. Station maintenance conducts an exterior inspection every 6 hours. The next one is scheduled in 30 minutes. A single technician in an EVA suit wouldn't draw much attention. Their eyes met in silent understanding. Reyes was offering her a way out and potentially committing treason in the process. "Thank you, Mr. President." Reyes nodded once. "I was never here, Commander." Exactly 28 minutes later, a maintenance technician's EVA suit drifted away from Orbital Station Alpha, ostensibly to inspect a communications array. Inside the suit, Eliza adjusted the thrusters, setting course not for the array but for the alien vessel hovering silently in Earth's orbit. "Control to EVA-7, you're drifting off course," came a voice through her helmet comm. "Minor thruster malfunction," Eliza responded, disguising her voice. "Correcting now." Instead of correcting, she accelerated, pushing the EVA suit to its limits. Behind her, alarms would be sounding on the station as they realized what was happening. She had minutes at most before they scrambled pursuit. "You approach alone," came the Queen's voice in her mind, growing stronger as she neared the vessel. "Not by choice," Eliza replied aloud. "Earth's leadership is divided, some want to attack your ship. Such aggression would be unfortunate." The familiar section of the Queen's vessel liquefied, creating an opening just large enough for Eliza's EVA suit to pass through. Once inside, gravity returned, gently pulling her to the organic floor. She removed her helmet, breathing in the strange, slightly sweet air of the alien ship. This time, no escort awaited her. The walls themselves pulsed with bioluminescence, creating a path for her to follow. Eliza moved quickly, aware that time was precious both for her personally and for humanity as a whole. The Queen awaited in a smaller chamber than before, her form somehow more contained, more focused. The intensity of her presence, however, remained overwhelming. "You have chosen to come despite your kind's resistance. This shows wisdom." "Not everyone resists," Eliza clarified. "Many humans are ready to embrace change, evolution, others fear it. Fear is the shadow of transformation. It is expected." "The anomalies at the edge of our solar system," Eliza said, cutting to the core reason for her risk. "Are they what I think they are?" The Queen's form darkened, patterns of light flowing across her surface in what Eliza now recognized as distress. "The harvesters approach. They have sensed our interest in your world. The potential awakening draws them like predators to wounded prey." "How long do we have?" "Hours, perhaps a day. Their perception of time differs from both yours and mine." Eliza felt the blood drain from her face. "Then we're out of time for debate. I need to make the choice now." "Yes, but there's something you haven't told me." Eliza stepped closer to the Queen, finding courage she didn't know she possessed. "What happens to you, to your people, if I choose evolution? What do you gain from humanity's transformation?" The Queen was silent for a moment, her form shifting through patterns Eliza couldn't interpret. Finally, her response came not as words but as images. The Queen's species, once numerous throughout the galaxy, now reduced to scattered remnants. The harvesters had culled them over eons, driving them to the brink of extinction. "We were the first to face them. We evolved to survive, but too few of us remain. We seek continuation." Understanding dawned on Eliza. You need allies, not just for some distant future threat, but for right now, for survival. Yes, your potential is extraordinary, unique among the species we have encountered. With guidance, humanity could become what we once were, guardians against the darkness. And if I refuse, if I choose to let humanity remain as we are? The Queen's response was simple and devastating. "Then we cannot protect you. We will depart, seeking other potential allies elsewhere. Your world will fall, as countless others have fallen before." Before Eliza could respond, the chamber shuddered. Lights flickered, and a sound like distant thunder resonated through the vessel. "They test our defenses, earlier than anticipated. The harvesters are here, now. An advance presence, scouts, the full force follows." Another shudder, stronger this time. The organic walls of the chamber seemed to contract in pain. "Your military also attacks. Foolish. They draw attention we cannot afford." Eliza's communicator crackled to life. "Commander Foster," it was Reed's voice, urgent and strained. "Hayes has launched an offensive against the alien vessel. 3 cruisers armed with experimental pulse weapons. You need to get out of there." Simultaneously, Eliza's mind filled with a new vision from the Queen, Earth's solar system from afar, with dark, angular shapes moving inward from the outer planets. Not ships in any conventional sense, but tiers in reality itself, consuming everything in their path. The chamber shook violently as another attack struck the Queen's vessel. I cannot maintain this form while defending against both your kind and the harvesters. Choose now, Eliza Foster. I need to know one more thing, Eliza insisted, even as the ship trembled around them. This evolution, will we still be human? Will we still be ourselves? The Queen's form contracted, concentrating into an intense point of light that almost hurt to look at. You will be more than you are, less than you fear, different yet the same in all ways that define your essence. The seed of humanity will grow into something greater, but the root remains unchanged. Another impact, more violent than before. Parts of the chamber began to dissolve, the organic structure of the ship redirecting its resources to defense. Commander, Reed's voice again. Multiple anomalies detected approaching Earth. Whatever you're going to do, do it now. Eliza closed her eyes, feeling the weight of humanity's future pressing down upon her. All the debates, all the fears and hopes, all the scientific analyses and military strategies, none of it mattered now. Time had run out. When she opened her eyes, her decision was made. I choose evolution, she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. I choose survival. The Queen's form expanded suddenly, engulfing the chamber in brilliant light that seemed to penetrate Eliza's very being. She felt something unlock within her DNA, a potential that had always existed suddenly awakening. It begins, the Queen's voice resonated through her mind. Return to your people. The change will spread from you to them, a cascade of awakening. We will defend your world until the transformation reaches critical mass. As Eliza's consciousness expanded, she became aware of the harvester's presence more directly, ancient, cold intelligences driven by consumption, now turning their full attention toward Earth. She also sensed the Queen's truth. Without evolution, humanity would have no defense against such entities. How do I get back? Eliza asked, her voice sounding strange to her own ears as new sensory awareness began to unfold. In response, the chamber around her shifted, creating a direct path back to her EVA suit. Beyond, she could see space, and the Earth military vessels firing upon the Queen's ship. Go, the change has begun in you. It will spread through proximity, thought, connection. Your species stands at the threshold of becoming. We will hold back the darkness until you can stand against it yourselves. As Eliza rushed toward her suit, she felt the first changes accelerating within her. Enhanced perception, thoughts moving faster, connections forming between concepts that had seemed unrelated before. This was just the beginning. Earth's future now depended on her return, and on humanity's willingness to embrace the evolution she carried within her.